we go, folks. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to Printavo University. How's it going today on this fine Thursday? I am out here in cloudy Los Angeles, California. Today, we got a little bit of overcast skies, but that's all right. And as always, we'd love to start out the event and hear where you guys are watching from. So pop in the chat where you're at. I see Sarah typing. Thank you so much, Sarah. And yeah, we'd love to see who's watching, where you're at, and what we can learn from each other. Because, folks, these webinars, we do hope that everybody's watching and asking questions. We're here as a safe space to ask questions and get your questions answered. There's two buttons on our program we use. There's a chat button and a questions button. Make sure to click that questions button and hit ask a new question if you have questions about anything we're talking about. And what are we talking about? Well, I'm super excited. We're talking about audience building or getting new followers for your brand. And we have two experts on the topic. I know them well. They're both Printavo team members. Please welcome Mary Novohoski and Luke Gardner on our marketing team. What's up, guys?
Oh, hey.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here on this lovely Thursday.
So glad you guys joined us.
Yes, me too. We got folks from all over the country: Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Colorado, Oregon. Ooh, Ecuador. That's incredible. Hey, Josie, what's up?
Nice.
All right, folks. Well, easy one to start. Tell us about yourselves and how did you get interested in audience building?
Sure. Well, I'll start. I'm Luke Gardner. If you've interacted with any of Printavo's content, you've probably interacted with something I've touched or had a hand in. And so I started in October 2018, and the mission was from the get-go to build an audience, to really, secure our position in the industry as a sort of interesting company and leader in the space. And Bruce really helped me hit the ground running and has always been a huge resource. But I've definitely been behind the scenes trying to push the right buttons, pull the right pulleys, and make sure everything's running smoothly. So really just got interested in it because that was the job. And it also is a really fascinating, challenging, interesting sort of practice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been at Printavo for the last 6 months, and largely why I joined was because of the amazing content that Luke was creating. And I've worked in a handful of other software companies that really didn't take the approach that I've seen kind of Printavo take over the last few years, with really the goal of bringing as much knowledge and industry know-how back out to shops. I got started in marketing in general actually after finding myself no longer wanting to do sales, or the part of sales that I was liking the most. Actually, when I was working at a silk screen printing shop out of Los Angeles, were the little marketing bits and pieces. And so I started transitioning really to this space back in 2013 after sort of being totally done with sales.
Totally. Yeah, I totally get that. I am on a sales team too. I forgot to mention that. And I think I forgot to say my name even. I am not Printavo team. I am Nick at Printavo. I'm on a sales team. And I got to tell you something, guys. I need you to explain audience building to me. And if you could, explain it like I'm 5. Can you put it real simple? What is audience building? What are we really talking about today?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of different, you could probably Google it and find a million different answers. The way that I really interpreted it is just building your share in a market. So building the number of people that just know about you. It's not just about acquiring customers. It's about acquiring influence in a particular space, right? All these markets, even your, every single one of you guys that works at a shop or owns a shop, right? There's a specific audience, a target addressable market that you can potentially reach. And I really see audience building as trying to push the limits to really reach as many of those people as you can and let them know what you're all about so that you're top of mind. So that's kind of my short shtick with it.
Yeah, Luke,
I
anything?
like that answer a lot because I think it really is about creating a space where people know who you are, know what you do, and come to you for something. We preach a lot about having a niche, and one of the challenging things from the get-go was to really define that niche and say, hey, this is what we're talking about. This is our topic. This is how we talk about it. Because it's easy to decide to talk about everything and think that your audience has to be everyone, but really you only need to pick a few people. So that's a big part of a task, is deciding who you're trying to talk to.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Luke. Because I mean, as someone who doesn't know a ton about the topic, I would kind of think you're trying to get a lot of people. But I think the way you put it, of the people who are gonna do the thing that's relevant to you, or probably to put it in the the language of what folks watching are thinking. How do I get people to buy my shirts? How do I get people to buy my printed goods? So you're not trying to get you're not like a Kardashian. You're not trying to get like everybody in the world to follow you. You're trying to get the people in your area who are going to buy the shirts that you sell to follow you. That makes a ton of sense to me. Okay. So we'll probably be talking about it in two ways. Audience building is as how do our customers do it, and then how did we at Printavo do it? But I'm curious, like Luke, you mentioned in 2018, that was kind of the top of mind, was growing the audience. How did you decide where to start? If someone else is going to embark on building their audience, maybe they can learn from this story. So how did you decide where to start when you guys started doing the audience building for Printavo?
So I will be totally honest. I had the great luxury of showing up and seeing that Printavo was led by a very charismatic and interesting founder, Bruce. It really is. We kind of call it Bruce Tavo sometimes because he answers all the emails and he does all these things. But really, that was part of what we decided to push, was that was part of the brand and part of the appeal. It's like you have this really friendly guy who's taking you into print shops and showing you cool things and teaching you things and talking to interesting people, and that dynamic was something that I found really powerful right from the get-go. So the natural place to start was right there. Hey, let's make this about Bruce. Let's put him front and center. Let's let him do his thing, and let's sort of celebrate the industry that we're in, versus trying to say, hey, we're looking for people who want screen printing software. We decided to go a more diagonal route and say, hey, you're interested in the entire print game, right? Like, here's kind of an insider's perspective, insider's look from people who are really doing it. That was really where we started, and it's still where we're going. So that's, if there's a secret, I'd say it's pick a person to be the face of what you're doing. Tell a story.
I think that was one of the most appealing parts about Printavo, was just that, like, even when we started, not everything we do is like perfect or polished. We have so many gaps and like still wanting to improve. I think people, like, it's really easy to get caught up in like, but I don't have a perfect website, or like I don't have a perfect system for capturing this. But like, one of the things that I've appreciated really the most about this team, and what I think has really like led to our growth over the last 3 years, which was like 400%, was just keeping focused on like continuing to put out what we believe, like staying in touch with customers and putting out the things like we believe could really help them. Not that like we don't put out pieces that are about our product or that like aren't self-serving. I mean, that's also part of the game, but just wanting to find ways that we could continue to bring value. And it really helps that like Bruce came from this like screen printing background. Like, he understood sort of the pain points of what a lot of people were looking for early on, because he had encountered them, in his own journey. And so I think any way where you can connect your journey, right, or like the face of whoever you want to like rep your brand into who you're selling to, the ways that you can create that connection and like have that empathy and know that like those people have pain points, they're trying to solve them. I think that's one of the fastest ways to grow an audience, because ultimately like that's also a way to create word of mouth. One person tells another person that like, man, I read this thing and it actually helped me, or like, yeah, it's just that empathy. I think that's huge too.
Yeah, totally. I have two follow-up questions. So, what if someone watching this feels like they don't have a person? They don't have like a charismatic person. Is it a mental block? Should they just try to, get a little more comfortable, or try to get more comfortable like sharing? Or is it something you could delegate? Could you say, okay, I as a shop owner, I own the automatic screen printing press, but I don't feel like getting in front of the camera. So that's part of my question. But then the other thing, Luke, you mentioned about approaching it diagonally. How do you think a screen printing shop could approach it diagonally? Not just say like, "Hey, I want to sell you a shirt for $10," but like, in other words, how could this be replicated for a garment deal?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. Not everybody's comfortable in front of the camera, and not everybody is good in front of the camera, flat out. But it is like something you have to practice. It's not something that you're born with. So, if you go back and look at some of the old videos Bruce does, you'll see he's gotten a lot better. Like he really has just made it an effort to kind of do it every day and work hard on it. So yeah, it's a persistent effort kind of question. But if you want to take a diagonal path and not sit the owner in front of a camera and torture them with it, then what you can do is find the most charismatic person in the business. I think Terminus Tees has done a great job with this. They've just put like this guy named Brad in charge of their social media, and kind of he's like the face of the really weird, goofy stuff that they do, and it's just perfect. You've picked the weirdest person in the building, give them a chance to show off in front of the camera and see what they do with it for a little bit. If you're a little scared of that and it's not appropriate for your company, totally cool. I understand. Another option is always to go with a mascot. It's a really cool, simple thing that I've seen a lot of shops do is just get a mascot. It can be a logo. It could be something for, your hometown. It could be a big fuzzy costume that somebody wears. As simple or as complicated as you want to make it. That starts a cool conversation and builds a little bit of an audience just by having that really basic, fundamental kind of, well, here's our mascot.
Yeah. I think it comes with like personality is almost the key to it, because people remember a personality. I think a lot about like even the Wendy's Twitter account, right? Like there's not like an exact person, an exact name. There's like a personality that like you're gonna get, you're gonna get something from it. It might make you laugh, it might make you smile. And I think having like a key personality allows you to like create that connection with an audience that lasts longer than just being like, hello, I am blah, 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 and this is my shop and I sell t-shirts, because that's not going to separate you from the, tens of thousands of other people who are doing that thing. So like having a story and having a personality, but like it's not for everybody. You can't create a personality that everybody's going to love, and you can't craft a narrative everyone's going to be into. So it's like picking, really who you're trying to bring in.
Absolutely. I got a little wacky synthesis of an idea here.
Oh, wacky synthesis.
If someone is watching and you feel like, you don't have that personality or charisma, you don't know how to do something to set you apart, Luke's idea on a mascot could maybe give you the freedom to do it, because if you put on a goofy foam head, you will feel different. I guarantee it. Like, that really could set you apart. It could get you more interesting content, because I think what we're kind of getting at too, Mary, with your point about Wendy's, nobody would like it if Wendy's Twitter account said, hey, come to Wendy's today, we still got Frosties for $1. Like, no one would follow. We know they have Frosties for $1. So I think that mascot idea, or really personifying it or thinking about it as a character, could maybe be a way in for people who feel like they don't have a sort of a what do you call it? Like a gimmick or something to go with. It works in wrestling, right? Works in wrestling. But going back to something else, though, I wanted to go back to something else you said too, Mary. You talked about how you liked part of your sales role, but really they were marketing parts. And I'm wondering what you guys think the relationship is between audience building and sales. In other words, are you making posts to close sales?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's easy to get caught up in, I mean, right, often the end game is like you want to sell more, right? If you could like boil it down to what you probably are wanting to do in your business is like you want to sell more. Building an audience, building a brand isn't about focusing, like it's about creating content that really is going to bring people in. And sometimes you're going to have to get really comfortable. Actually, a lot of the time you're going to have to get comfortable creating content where the end game of that particular piece of content, that email, that social post, that blog is not about trying to sell somebody a shirt for 20% off or trying to close the deal. I think that people often confuse like this direct response marketing, which is all about trying to get the sale in that moment or close the deal, with what like audience building and brand building is really all about, which is about kind of like generating this demand and generating this buzz around your business. And it becomes really hard to be like, to connect this perfect dot from bringing somebody in through your YouTube channel who's been like watching and really following you for a while, and now they're finally in the space to buy, back to that sale. But what we've found is that so much of what we invested in upfront in the beginning as a company was just creating content that we thought would bring value, and trusting that if you build your brand, it's going to help close the deal. Like people are going to say, wow, you know, I really appreciated that video. And when I was thinking about who I wanted to choose on this journey, now that I'm finally there and ready to buy, like you were the first person that came to mind. And so I think top of mind is really, really important. Instead of focusing on how can you close somebody all the time, focusing on how do I be the shop that's top of mind always, whether that person's ready to buy or not ready to buy. I mean, it's like what car companies do, you know, only 1% of people are ready to buy a car at any given moment, but that doesn't mean that like Toyota's not going to run ads all the time or like let you know that there's something cool and sexy going on when you're ready for it. So that's my answer.
Any thoughts, Luke?
Yeah, sure. I really think Mary did a great job, you know, kind of conveying the sense that you're having this ongoing conversation where you're not always coming to us to buy screen printing software, but you are interested in kind of like what we're doing. Like what's Printavo doing, you know? And if you can get that like little bit of excitement going where people just want to check up on what you're doing, it's like so valuable that it leads to sales down the line. And it keeps people in your orbit and keeps people on your side. So I see that as really valuable, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, totally. I agree with both of what you're saying. I do think about sales a lot, and I almost think that marketing content and sales are doing opposite things. Like with sales, I feel like I'm asking questions and then giving the answer of can it do it or not do it? Can it solve your problem or not? But obviously, this is like so obvious I don't even need to say it, but a video is not asking you questions. Maybe they do, but it's a video. You know, it doesn't listen to what you're saying back. The same thing with an image or a blog post. Like it's not a conversation. It's really more telling you, like you're saying, Mary, a valuable piece of information. So no, I don't think you're going to ever close deals with content. But I do think the top of mind thing Mary said is also a really important point, because a lot of people I talk to that buy Printavo have already read Luke's blog posts. They've already watched Chris's YouTube videos. So they already are thinking about Printavo top of mind. Then I can tell them if it will do the thing they need solved. And I think that makes the sales conversation super warm. Like if it's someone who's never seen our YouTube channel, they're not as warm on the brand. So you could think of it like your content is warming people up, but not in a sales way. Not like shaking their hand and making eye contact, warming them up. More like warming them up because they have heard about it and they want to be, oh yeah, I heard about your brand. You're the brand with the wacky guy who wears a foam head. Yeah, I heard about you guys. My friend was telling me about that. So I think the top of mind is a really good takeaway. So I am gonna skip a question here. I'm gonna ask about one that people are wondering about. We've got two questions in from the audience. They're both related. I want to hear about newsletters. I want to hear why? Because when we were brainstorming about this, you guys were super excited about newsletters, so I'm super excited to hear about it now too. Why are newsletters so great? Why can they be a great place to help you establish a voice?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited about the potential of a very, very old technology called email. And the reason I'm really excited about the potential of email is that it's free and there is no algorithm mediating who sees it and how it's sent or how they see it. This is really valuable and powerful these days because so many marketers and so many screen print shops and so many businesses in general that are trying to do e-commerce are fighting with Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever platform they're on to get engagement. And this is like slow torture, I think, because you can't really figure out what's going to work and when it's going to work and how it's going to work. But with email, you have so much more control. I think that email is the number one tool that Printavo has at their disposal right now, and it's the one that we use to, I think, pretty profound effect. We started a newsletter called The Weekly, and it's kind of on my shoulders, but it's a really fun way to just keep a dialogue going about whatever is kind of being discussed in the industry. I really just, if I were going to explain what I'm doing, it's like I'm literally going on Facebook and Instagram and other places where I know there's a community of print shops and listening to what they're doing and trying to learn more about it however I can. I think it's like a really powerful tool because these aren't sales emails. I'm not emailing you asking you to buy Printavo. I'm more just being like, hey, here's what's going on with our company and what we're thinking about and what we're kind of up to.
Yeah.
And that may not always be the most engaging thing. It may not always be the most interesting, but I think what makes it powerful is that I'm usually able to fill you in on some kind of business-y details and things that maybe you didn't know about, while also keeping you informed about something like shortages or pricing or sales or really any difficult challenge that shops face and things that I've seen work or not work. So yeah, I think that covers most of the ground on email newsletters, but it's still such an underutilized play because people want to know what you guys are up to, what kind of things you're printing, who you're working with, what's going on in your shop, what's fun or interesting. I just think it's a powerful way to know who you're sending it to, know when it's being read, you know all the details, and it's free. So
one of the interesting things too is and sort of coming back to Sarah's question about growing, that newsletter audience, we've actually been using one of our key metrics that we started tracking this quarter was new newsletter subscribers. So we've been following that. And one thing we've seen is we probably have over 100 new subscribers every month since we really started focusing on that as an area that we've really wanted to grow. And we've done it a handful of different ways. So one, there's tools you can use to embed, a subscribe to our newsletter form in different parts of your site. Sometimes people just kind of have something at the bottom of the page, maybe at the footer. We have it as a pop-up on our blog. One way that I think would be really powerful to try to gain subscribers, if you have a channel like Instagram, for example, that's really growing and you want to take those people and you want to move them potentially into subscribing to your newsletter, I think something that you can try and something that we've actually tried as well is taking a snippet from your newsletter and repurposing that as a post or that as a story. And then you can have a call to action there of did you like this? More content here. And I think that's a really getting people into your newsletter, I think is a really nice call to action because it's not pushing them to necessarily buy something. If you're really focusing on creating a newsletter that provides value, continues to tell your business's narrative, then I think it can translate really easily as repurposing pieces of your newsletter and social, and then letting people know like, hey, this little snippet here, this came from our newsletter. If you want more updates, like exclusive updates like this, we've got them in the newsletter. Here's the link to subscribe. And in general, I think part of growing the audience without, killing yourself trying to create custom platform in general for like every single channel is finding ways to take like that thing you worked really hard on for your newsletter and break it into pieces that are digestible for Facebook, or break it into pieces that are digestible for Instagram that can call people back to like maybe where the heart of what you're focusing on is. And that's been one of the biggest things that we've been working on as a team really as well, is like, how do you work smarter, right? Not harder. I don't think you need to create something totally new on Instagram to drive people back there. It's just finding what's a piece you can take from what you've already created in your newsletter and repurpose as a post or a series of posts that, you release kind of over some period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mary's also referencing a question. If you guys, you can ask questions over on the question box, but Sarah had a great question. She was asking, they have a bigger Instagram following than a newsletter following. How do you pull people over? And I love your idea, because one thing I think that people, you press send on the newsletter and you're like, there it is, there it goes. People might not see it. If you're using MailChimp and you're not using the resend to people who didn't see it function, check out that function, because it looks at everybody who didn't see it and resends it. But even furthermore, still people won't see it. So I think, Mary, your point's a really excellent one, is that you can use that same stuff without changing anything. You just take a screenshot and that becomes a post. And I think you're smarter, not harder, of how the content ecosystems, it's, when you say that out loud, you feel like a something or other. But, the content ecosystem, right? All those companies, they make a lot of money, but they make a lot of money by showing you stuff on their thing. But if you move the stuff around all the other platforms that you have followers, you can make some money too. Not as much as the people on the big content platforms, but that's for a different day. Now, there was a really good question. Speaking of money, there was a really good question from Mark Kennedy. And I'm curious what you guys think. He's wondering, can free marketing be just as effective as paid marketing? Now, email is a free channel, but what do you guys think about that? Can free be as effective as paid?
As a paid media manager, should I start this one, Luke?
Yeah. I think, Mary, you have to.
No. Well, I've largely made a career on paid. You can't really do it without establishing a foundation. Paid promotion is like, imagine that like if there's this onion of growing and growing and growing and growing, I don't think paid comes first most of the time. Paid is another lever that you can pull to, create greater distribution. Not to say that there aren't, fun tests you can do. Like if you're trying to pop up sell, say that you have like some one-off, t-shirts or something that you're trying to sell, and you want to sponsor an Instagram post and you think you've got a good audience. Like if you're going to pay for even something like that along your journey, I would really think like, are you super clear on who you want to target? Because if you're really broad about it, you're just going to spend a lot of money and you're never going to reach people. Like say you made a shirt and you think it'd be great for women who follow a specific group or this and that, then anytime you want, you can do these little paid tests. But always be clear on your audience. When you try to go super broad, you're going to sponsor that post and it's going to, maybe 1 in a million times blow up or do anything kind of meaningful for you. I think that you have to start with a foundation of really building out content, and really building out your brand and your personality. It doesn't have to be super defined, super clear. You don't need like a giant brand strategy document, but you do need to understand who you are, who you're selling to, and how you can reach them, I think, before you start putting in the money. Printavo largely grew without a huge investment. for a very long time just by, Luke creating content that spoke to people. I mean, we can talk about probably SEO on some level, and what it means to reach people through there. Again, not free, because all of it takes time. So I would also say I think free is a tricky question because all of it is going to take time. I think people think that they can save time by just promoting things or paying for like Google ads, but there's still time that's got to go into like thinking through the strategy and who you're trying to reach. So it's like, do you want to try to put the money? You're going to have to pay to create the content. Your time is money. But I think creating a content foundation before you start putting in different advertising opportunities probably makes sense. It really will depend on where you're at in your business.
I think if I were going to answer that question, I would say paid marketing tends to have much clearer attribution, as in you kind of know what's going on. It's not perfect, but you know that ad led to this person going here, led to some action. Or ideally you do, right? Free marketing may be a little more ambiguous than that and kind of more challenging to get a one-to-one correlation. So kind of comes down to what you're comfortable with. If you're a very analytical person and you want to see where every dollar is going and how it's being spent and where each click is going, you can build that, and that can be a strategy. But you can also take a very open-ended approach. It's just what you're ultimately capable of sustaining and comfortable with. That's how I would answer that question. I think the answer is yes, it can be, but it just depends. It's a big question.
I think to sort of sum up, like if you're thinking about audience growth, you don't need to put money in. you can post free content that is useful to the audience that maybe doesn't have a direct ROI. So in other words, like Luke was saying, like that, if you're analytical, if you want to attribute it back, definitely. I think that's really an interesting thing. But I feel like a lot of the things we're talking about today, it's like, yeah, Mary, you make a good point. Nothing is free, right? You could always be doing something else. But the things we're talking about today are really more you make the content, you hit the post button, and people follow. Because we have talked with Mary in particular about the other end of it, the attribution-based marketing, where you put money in the slot machine and you hope that people see it on the other end, right? And that you can find on our YouTube channel for sure. But today, I think we're more talking about how to build that follower number. And to answer a different question in the chat, Victoria, you had an interesting question. The content can create conversations because she said, couldn't you close with content because content can create conversations? That's a good point. But I do think something Luke mentioned a couple minutes ago, our marketing emails and our sales emails are A, written by different people, and B, look totally different. So Luke's marketing emails look really nice. They're laid out. They have pictures. They're trying to get people to read it because reading it is the point. My sales emails, I try to make at maximum 4 lines long. One of those lines says thanks. One of the other lines says hi, first name, right? So they're totally different in my opinion. But I hear what you're saying, Victoria. It's just my opinion. You know what I mean? Like if you think of it that way, it is creating the conversation that gets to the close. But I'm thinking of it more where the stuff we're talking about that your followers are going to want to read, you're not going to want to have a hard sales push on it. Like, I don't want to read an email newsletter that at the end of it every week goes, so what do you say, Nick? Can I get your credit card number? Like, I wouldn't subscribe to that one. But let me ask you guys a kind of an obtuse question. People on webinars often talk about everything that works and everything that's great, but I'm think that you can learn from experience or other people's experiences. And I think a good learning thing is tell us about something that didn't work. What did you guys try to build the audience that just didn't work? And then how did you evaluate that it wasn't working?
Yeah. So we had a series of weekly blog posts that were sort of like written from a interesting perspective on SEO, where we were like trying to just get traffic from certain keywords, and it definitely helped us get traffic from certain keywords, but people would stay on the page for about 8 seconds and then leave. So like, let me give you an example. And I think the pages are still there. We would have a page that would be like Sanmar support and phone numbers, and it would just list off how to get a hold of Sanmar support and phone numbers. And when you Googled Sanmar support or Sanmar phone number, it would show up usually like second or third result, and a lot of people would come through it. But these weren't necessarily people who were interested in Printavo or wanted anything to do with us. And another thing that was very difficult was that we had to actually keep that information accurate. So sometimes that stuff would change, and then you get a very ornery email from a big company that you want to be on good side of, and they say, hey, you have to update this because people are calling this number and they're pissed off at us because we're not answering, and it's wrong, so fix it. So we sort of abandoned that strategy because I think it was like the pursuit of the vanity metric. Traffic is not always good. I mean, yeah, you want more traffic, of course, but you really want the right traffic. So for us, we need a very narrow group of people to come look for us and find our content appealing, not a big group of people who come to us and immediately leave. So that was an interesting failure. Don't just chase traffic numbers.
Yeah, I've definitely also failed when I've tried to do the opposite of like our own advice here and try to essentially solicit people to buy immediately in an email. For a while, we were trying to get people like sign up in advance for a sales demo. And like largely, no matter how we tried it or how we promoted it, like it wouldn't take off. And I know Nick is one of the people who probably had to do one of these demos, was also like, why are we doing this? And it's so hard sometimes when like in theory, there's this thing you think that is like this great idea that's going to drive revenue. But I would say 9 out of 10 times when you try to push somebody like through, channels that are really meant to like build brand and promote your content into trying to force them to buy, you're going to almost always end up with a fail. And it's hard as a marketing team not to do it because everybody always has this idea like, but what if, we try to sell somebody this way? And sometimes it works in like businesses that sell to consumers. Like sometimes maybe you are going to put like a sweet picture of a shirt and someone's really going to want to buy it in that email. And like occasionally that works, right? Like there are brands that can totally do that. But I think like when you're a business really trying to appeal to another business for like a long-term relationship, when you suddenly send them something where you're like, hey, what's up? You want to take an hour of your day to come into this demo where we're just going to try to sell you for, 30 minutes? Like people can read right through that and they don't want to come, and it's not going to get you anywhere except maybe some people that are like annoyed. We got some decent unsubscribes from that, too, but we're like, no, I don't want to do this.
The very wonderful Steve Leichman from Printavo always calls it like our timeshare presentation. You really want to avoid giving someone a timeshare presentation because no one wants to. You really don't. You don't want to do it. So. But you in your head are thinking, I'll get them there. It'll be wonderful. They'll have a great time. We'll have a great time. And it's like, no, that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I know exactly what you guys are talking about because I gave some of those webinars. It is a little like a timeshare presentation. In our head, we're like, well, I get to have 5 sales conversations at once. But I do think something to think about is that marketing is essentially for a lot of people. Sales is for one person.
Yes.
You're giving them your attention. You're giving them your brain processing power. So I think that's a really good example. I got another one. It was before so I've been with Printavo since 2017. And before we had a marketing team, before we had Mary and Luke, we heard about Facebook ads. Everybody's talking about Facebook ads. Oh, Facebook ads. We make so much money on Facebook ads. And me and Bruce are like, oh boy, okay, all we do, we put out a Facebook ad. Next thing you know, we're going to have 100 new customers. So we put out a Facebook ad, and something to consider about a lot of these things is that you need, like, making a Facebook post maybe is you don't need as much, but you need to look up a lot of stuff. You need to Google a lot of stuff. You can't just assume you know what it is, because we put out these Facebook ads, we got Facebook going there, we're spending money, and now all we were getting were calls by people who were saying, so can you print my shirts? I need to print shirts. I want to buy shirts. And we're like, oh yeah, sorry, we don't do that. And then they were just so unhappy because now they're thinking about an information management system for the industry they want. It's like, what are you talking about? So the point of the story is, I think that it is trial and error that you learn a lot when it comes to building an audience, to doing marketing. Trial and error is important, but also make sure to Google a lot. Like, an hour's worth of Googling can save you money and time. Definitely Google to make sure you have a good understanding of, if you're doing paid or something like that, or buying followers, make sure you really understand what you're doing. Those were some fun goofs. But here's a question that I hear a lot of my customers say. They say, I started doing an email newsletter. I did 3. Nobody did anything. Nobody clicked it. Nobody replied. Nobody cared. How long do you have to do something in building an audience before you give up? Like, what time frame are we looking at until you start to see things snowball?
Yeah. So I want to start with a kind of interesting answer to this question that I think is like the real answer to this question, which is like, did you like doing it? Like, if you did something and it didn't work and it was super deflating and you didn't like doing it, then don't do it again. Like, stop. Like, don't kill yourself with something that doesn't work. It's really important, because you're going to need to do this over a very long period of time. So the example I'll give you is that, like, Bruce hates writing. He's not good at it. He doesn't enjoy doing it. But I love writing, and I am good at it, and I do enjoy doing it. So it was a good sort of like compliment, because he's really good at hopping on a video and being interesting and interviewing someone and saying what's on his mind. And I'm good at sort of like taking the thoughts and organizing them and helping turn it into something that can be written. So that's how we took the long-term view, is like he took that side of things and I took the other side of things. The real interesting thing about this also is that you can't always figure out why something worked or why something didn't work. I've literally posted the same image and the same caption to Instagram like 3 months apart, and the first time nothing happens, and the second time I'll post it in like the same day, the same time, everything's the same, and it will like rocket to the top and get hundreds of likes for no apparent reason. So there's no perfect attribution with this stuff. So it really comes back to, like, did you like doing it? Could you do this over a long period of time? Like, did it take a lot of effort to do, or was it something that you feel like, yeah, next week, even if this one wasn't perfect, I could probably crank out another one. So, like, that's just a huge signal to me that if you hated doing it and it didn't work, then it's time to try something else. But that helps you take the long-term view on it then, because if you like doing it and even if it doesn't work, you'll still probably do it again. So you lean on what you like.
That's such a beautiful answer. The only thing I would piggyback from it is that if you can find the things that you love, I mean, I think you have to keep creating content, even if it's not taking off right away, even if it's not taking off after the 11th time, because so much of what ultimately ends up working is really based on momentum. There's always like the gem, where that one post, the like third post the person ever did went viral, but like that's not that's not going to happen most of the time. And so I think it's respecting that it is a momentum game. Keep posting if that's what you love doing, if it's short videos, if it's blogs, keep it out there. And then I think just keep putting it out in different places, keep testing where distributing that thing makes sense. Because like Luke said, it might make sense to distribute something on Instagram tomorrow, right? Like it might make a lot, like you may you may see so right, we had one of the questions about growing the newsletter, right, through Instagram potentially. You may post your newsletter to Instagram and it may get no traction. It doesn't mean that if it was easy and if it was right, something that like wasn't super high effort and that you didn't feel horrible doing, like you could still try it again. And then you could try posting it to Facebook and then you can try again. I think it's so much a momentum game, like showing up and continuing to do the thing over a period of time. And that period of time is hard to set. I mean, I could say that like SEO probably will take at least 3-4 months in order for your articles to start ranking. Sometimes it's faster. You know, you can say paid sometimes has at least 2 weeks before you see what the results are going to be. But all of those time frames, they change. I go from company to company and it's always different.
Cool. So it's more vibes. Do you like it? Even if it's not getting faves, keep posting. Never stop posting.
That comes across. I mean, that the joy of someone doing something they like, it comes across.
No, absolutely. I mean, like I when you said that, I was thinking about some of the, you know, goofy, weird Twitter accounts I follow that I don't even think I get all the jokes that they post, but I think they're funny because I could tell the person posting it thinks it's funny too and is having a good time.
And those people should sell merch, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone should be reaching out to them.
Now, let me ask you this. So we're talking about Instagram a lot. I think that's the one that I've heard two things, right? I've heard some shops say, I can't figure it out. And I've heard other shops say the complete and utter opposite. They have so many sales that they can't even keep up. They come to Printavo because they're running all their sales out of Instagram DM. So definitely Instagram works for apparel sales. How did you guys grow the Instagram for Printavo? What are some actionable things people can do to get more followers?
Yeah, so I think the most basic one is to use hashtags. Instagram is a super hashtag heavy and like discover heavy platform. We always use the same set. You don't have to do that, but I would always recommend maxing out. I think it's 31 or something. Like use as many as you can. That's like a really basic nuts and bolts tip. The other thing I would say is like consistency worked really well for us. We just had a very regular cadence. It wasn't like we posted at the same time every day, anything like that. You could definitely do that, but we did something a little more sustainable. It was like 3 or 4 times a week, and you know, we had a few viral posts here and there where we would get hundreds and hundreds of followers. So my advice there is like, if you see something that catches your eye and you can repost it or you can get permission to share it, or if there's something floating around in your company that's funny that you're all laughing at, share that. Instagram is great for that kind of like mental candy option. Like people go there to really be like, "Ooh, that was fun," and then click like and then keep going. So don't overweigh the sort of like lowbrow comedy aspect of Instagram that you can have. The other thing is just we tried everything. I mean, like we've literally tried. There's thousands of posts. Like we've literally tried all kinds of stuff. A lot of stuff didn't work. A lot of stuff did work, and I think that like that helped us with just being relentless in the fact of like, okay, well, let's try this. Let's try this. This doesn't work. Let's try this. We're trying a new thing now, you know. So like it's like just constantly evolving. And then I literally think like copy people who are successful. Like look at what they do, steal it. You know, don't borrow it. Just go ahead and make your own version. Be brave about that because a lot of people won't have seen what you've seen. So that was kind of the tip. It was just a grind, and you know, keep it rolling.
You know, I had jumping in here. We on a different. I think Luke, you were on that one too, but on a different Printavo University, people were shouting out Instagrams that they like, and moreover, in the chat, feel free to drop your own Instagram handle. You guys can all follow each other. Everybody watching follows each other. There you go. They're growing your follow count in real time, baby. So drop your Instagram in the chat. Follow each other. That will seriously help. But I guess maybe you guys want to shout out some other another thing I think Luke said, but it should be repeated. Nobody cares if you copy stuff in social media. Like if you see some other shop do a cool thing, do a twist on it. Do it at your shop. So what are some? You mentioned a few, and we've even mentioned some throughout the presentation. But what are some Instagrams you guys think of that you like that in our space? Like what's some stuff that you enjoy looking at?
Well, I think the first one that I was really like blown away by was Shirt Kong. I think like everybody, maybe not everybody, but most people in the space are familiar with just kind of Andy's incredible, memoir style posts and beautiful pictures. But I don't think he's using Instagram there as a sales platform. I'm always impressed by the people who are using Instagram as a flat out sales platform and who come to us basically being like, my DMs are how I make sales. There are so many examples of that I can't even list them all off. I also think like Shirt Show is doing something cool.
Shirt Show rules.
A small print shop, Victoria, you guys have an awesome account. That was actually one I was going to shout out. That's really cool. Terminus Tees, again, they deserve a shout out just for being totally unique and also using it to drive sales. And I think, there's also people like Jared from Rockford Art Deli who are using Instagram to build like a community, which is totally mind-blowing and out there. There are so many great shops using Instagram to do really interesting stuff. But it's probably not for everyone, and that's okay. I'm bearish on it, personally. I think Facebook is going to cause trouble for Instagram in the next couple of years. So maybe we should look for other ways.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually going to shout out. What up, Sarah? I was going to shout out Flash Flood. Glad you're here. Yeah, we had May and Krista on another Printavo University, so go check our YouTube for that. But yeah, definitely was going to shout out Flash Flood. Did we get them all on our little Google Doc here? Yeah, we did. Or Mary, did you have any others you're thinking?
I also like Floodway. I like Floodway Print Co.
Yeah,
it's also because we've had Corey on here, but
it was incredible.
He really he stands for something in his Instagram, and he talks really it's clear that his business stands for something, whether you agree or disagree with their values. He puts it all out there. He puts himself out there.
Also, I'd like to say this about Corey. Go back and watch his videos from a couple of years ago and see how much better he is now.
Yeah.
Just by having he just does it all the time.
He does it all the time.
Constantly practicing, and he's like a master now. And he started out really good, and then he just got better and better and better and better. So that's really cool to watch that progression.
Okay, guys, I want to go in a specific example as we're getting close to time here, but I'm wondering if you guys can tell us about your strategy for marketing the Print Hustlers Conference. Before you do, no, there are no more tickets left. So you can learn from their great strategy, but you cannot buy a ticket. It's sold out. But I would love to hear what you guys did to actually approach that and to market that event, because maybe that could be a good specific one that we see actionable lessons from.
Yeah. So Print Hustlers Conference was 90% through email and identifying people we figured would want to go. And so how do you do that? Well, first we just looked at the people who had paid to come before and emailed them really early in the process and gave them sort of a jump start, because it was pretty amazing. We emailed probably 100 people, and within a couple hours, 30 or 40 of them had bought tickets. It was they were yeah, we're coming. No question, we're going. So you find the people who are interested in you and want to be with you and be on your team. You could start, if you're just starting out, it could be family and friends, could be a softball team you're on, a group you're part of, anything like that. You've got to get some kind of initial wind in your sails to keep that sort of campaign going. So we just find the people we already knew. And then the second thing was just sort of mentioning it casually here and there for in our newsletter. We got a lot of sales that way. And then the third thing, which is I think kind of cheating, was that we kept the goal really simple We only needed to sell 150 tickets, and we knew this was like very achievable because we had about 1,000 people register for last year's conference online. So like we just kept it kind of narrow in focus, and it was very organic. And we're super blessed, and I'm so thankful that there was so much interest. And if you couldn't get a ticket, I'm sorry, and if you could, I can't wait to see you there. So, yeah, I hope that answers that question. We leaned on the goodwill that we have from all the people who support us, and it paid off. I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, Luke really owned that promotion, but I would say just as like an outsider who got to see it executed, and I was like, wow, I cannot believe how fast they're selling. It really speaks to the fact that like we built an audience. I mean, probably the whole like thesis of this is like because we already built an audience and we were able to like identify people in that audience that we knew this would be really valuable to, the work kind of did itself. Like it didn't require this like massive convincing, because I think when you build an audience and when you build a group that like believes in you, and when you can have like evangelists within that audience, it starts creating this momentum where when you do something cool, when you have a cool event, when you have a piece of content, like your audience takes it forward for you. And they are just loyal because you've given them like, you know, it's a relationship, really. I think it's ultimately the relationships were built and the conference sold out. And I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Steve Albini.
I have a question from our audience here, speaking of audiences, and I really like this question, Josie. At what point do we consider that our content or emails are becoming annoying or intrusive? Are there certain customers you leave out of email marketing? And I'm even going to add something to it, Josie. If someone unsubscribes from your newsletter, does that mean your newsletter was bad?
Mary, do you wanna start on that one, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you're our newsletter.
Yeah, I think like, you know, one of the interesting things about the newsletter is that like, what's interesting to me isn't always interesting to like other people. You know, I may find just some, hey, that machine works this way. Cool, I didn't know that. And like to someone in print shop, they're like, yeah, well, you didn't know that. Why would, like, you know, of course. So there's this sort of like, the way I would describe it is like, if you don't get engagement, it's not the content that was bad. It's that it just wasn't interesting to your audience. And that sounds like really obvious, but like, it doesn't mean that what you made was bad. It just means it wasn't interesting to them. And like, if it wasn't interesting to them, it's not a reflection on the quality of the object necessarily. It's really about finding what's interesting to them. And when you find what's interesting to them, you may not always realize why it was interesting to them or not. So if you're finding that you're posting a lot of things that aren't getting any engagement, then you're posting something that isn't interesting to people who are looking at you for something interesting. So if something's not engaging, it probably is annoying or intrusive. But I think you have to really err on the side of assuming that people are paying a lot less attention to you than you think. You think you may be being repetitive or saying something a lot, or, you know, putting yourself out there way too much, but the odds are that you're just barely registering on the radar. If you're at the point where people are annoyed with you, you can always dial it back, but it's harder to like go too far in the other direction and do too much, to be totally honest. So I think I would say err on the side of going a little too far and getting scolded, seeing how far you can push it. But obviously don't be intentionally spammy. You don't want to do that, but you want to create good engagement.
Luke got it all.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I would even say too, like, I like to get it quantified. I mean, like, probably it depends, I guess, but you know, a couple times a day could get annoying with the content thing I'm following, but definitely like once a week wouldn't be annoying at all, and probably more frequent than that wouldn't be annoying at all. So I mean, if people are saying you're posting too much, stop. Then you're posting too much, or post through it. Ignore them. Post through it. The next question and the last question, because we're at time and we've had a great conversation. Thank you guys all so much for sticking around and hanging with us. But let's talk action, baby. What are some things that people can do this long Labor Day weekend to set themselves up for success? What can people start thinking about to start building their audience bigger?
Fall is around the corner, right? Seasonality, October. Everybody loves October. It's pumpkin month. Think about the best thing you can grasp onto in creating content that's engaging, that is actually really easy to create because it's so natural to all of us, is to be jump on something that's relevant, jump into a seasonality cycle, think through a few posts, think through some content, think through a fun spin on your newsletter if you're doing one around Halloween that gets you hyped and that can get your audience hyped for this seasonal shift.
Cool. So think about the upcoming seasons. You got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas,
right?
Kwanzaa. You got all kinds of stuff coming up. What do you think, Luke?
People are scared of shortages. We get them to order their merch early.
Order now, yeah.
Yeah, bro. Whoa.
Sorry.
Dropping fire at the end of the stream. Yeah, okay. You all are thinking about the shortages. Why not have your customer think about it too and get them to order early? Because they're going to want to buy stuff for all those wonderful holidays Mary just mentioned. So, yeah. Okay. Love it. Think about how they can do that. I do want to add Victoria's question because it is a really good one. Victoria is thinking about the email newsletter. She's wondering, should I do it monthly or bi-weekly? What's the best cadence you've seen for, and I'm imagining, and actually I know Victoria is a decorator. So what do you think a good cadence for a garment decorator would be like that?
Sure. So my advice is pull up a nice clean Google Doc and start listing out titles of newsletters you can write and see how many you have. If you have 4, then it's probably best to do it monthly. But if you have 30, maybe you can do it every week or bi-weekly. So kind of take stock of where your ideas are at, because you don't want to sit down and generate a new idea every week and keep going. You want to have a good long list of ideas to work on so that you can plan ahead. So my advice is see how many ideas you have and then plan from there. If you've got only a couple, do it every month. If you've got a bunch, do it every week.
Brilliant. I will say, as a person who is on a lot of shop marketing lists, because they have my email, I have theirs. Okay. So I don't see any more frequent than bi-weekly. But I think Luke made a great point, which is if you don't have enough for that, that's still a lot of newsletters. It's 24 a year. That's still a lot.
Yep.
If you don't have enough for that, don't do it that much. But I yet to see someone do a weekly update, but that does it. But there you go. There's an opportunity. So maybe somebody, if you could think of a really cool thing to do for a weekly update, feel free to add me to the list. I am Nick@printavo.com. And you can actually email me if you have any Printavo questions and you're watching this, and I'll get you to the right place. So Nick@printavo.com. But otherwise, I thought this was an awesome conversation. I know I learned a lot. Luke, Mary, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us.
Yay, thank you.
What should I tell you guys about? Well, for one, you could watch this video again if you want to write down the tips. It's going to be right at this link. We put them up on YouTube as well, so you can find the archive there. And then we do have some new ones coming up. We're real excited about them, and I totally forgot what they are. But when they do come, in a couple Thursdays from now, you're going to be getting emails about them. You're going to see posts about them, and we would always love to have you here. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great Labor Day weekend. Have a little fun, and I can't wait to see everybody grow their audience. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.